There are moments in your life when everything feels like it is moving forward at a speed your inner world cannot fully match. Thoughts arise faster than reflection. Decisions form before understanding. Emotions surface before you can even name them. And in that mismatch between what is happening outside and what is happening inside, something subtle begins to call for your attention. Not loudly, not aggressively, but persistently. It is the kind of feeling you almost dismiss at first, because nothing external seems wrong. Life continues. Responsibilities remain. People around you behave as expected. Yet somewhere beneath all of that, there is a quiet sense that something in your experience is asking to be seen differently. And this is where most people overlook the most important moment of all. Because what is trying to reach you is not always found in dramatic events or obvious signs. Sometimes it appears as a pause in your thinking, a sudden stillness in the middle of distraction, a moment where your attention shifts without you choosing it. And in that shift, something deeper is already beginning to speak, not in words, but in awareness itself. You may have experienced it before without realizing its significance. A moment when you were about to continue something habitual, but something inside you made you hesitate. A moment when a thought you normally accept suddenly felt questionable. A moment when your emotional reaction did not fully align with your usual patterns. These are not interruptions. They are invitations. And what they are inviting you into is not a different life, but a different way of seeing the life you are already living. There is a deeper structure beneath your experience that does not reveal itself through urgency or pressure. It reveals itself through recognition. And recognition requires something that modern life rarely encourages: stillness without agenda. Because in stillness, the layers of automatic interpretation begin to loosen. And when those layers loosen, something else becomes visible. Not something new, but something that was always there beneath the noise. A continuity, a thread, a pattern of unfolding that becomes clearer only when you stop forcing each moment to mean something immediately. And yet, the human mind is trained to interpret quickly, to categorize, to decide, to conclude. It wants clarity immediately, because uncertainty feels like instability. But not all uncertainty is instability. Some uncertainty is simply information still forming. And when you rush through that formation, you often replace deeper understanding with premature certainty. This is where many misalignments in life begin, not from wrong intentions, but from decisions made before awareness has fully caught up. And so the message that is forming here is not about fear. It is about presence, because presence allows you to see what urgency hides. There are times in your life when something feels like it must be decided immediately: a direction, a relationship, a change, a response. And in those moments, the intensity of feeling can easily be mistaken for clarity. But intensity is not always truth. Sometimes intensity is simply pressure without perspective, and pressure compresses awareness. It narrows vision. It makes complex realities feel simple, even when they are not. And when something is simplified under pressure, important details often disappear from perception. Details that would have changed your understanding if you had given them time. There is a reason some decisions in your past only revealed their full meaning later. At the time, you believed you were acting with clarity, but later you realized there were signals you did not fully notice. Subtle hesitations, quiet discomfort, small internal contradictions that were present but not fully acknowledged. And looking back, you may see that those subtle signals were not meaningless. They were early forms of awareness trying to guide your attention, not to stop you, but to slow you enough to see more completely. Because life rarely communicates everything at once. It unfolds information in layers, and each layer requires a different level of awareness to perceive. Some layers are emotional, some are intuitive, some are experiential, revealed only after time has passed. And when you act only on the first layer, you often miss the deeper structure underneath. This is why moments of pause are not obstacles. They are gateways. They are spaces where deeper information becomes available if you do not rush to close them. And yet, most people are uncomfortable in those spaces. They feel the urge to resolve uncertainty immediately, to finalize decisions quickly, to escape the discomfort of not knowing. But what if that discomfort is not a problem? What if it is a signal that something important is still unfolding? Because not everything that is unclear is meant to be resolved instantly. Some things are meant to be observed until they reveal their shape naturally. And in that observation, something inside you begins to develop. A different kind of intelligence. Not the intelligence of reaction, but the intelligence of perception. This intelligence does not rush toward answers. It allows answers to emerge. It does not force meaning. It notices meaning forming. It does not collapse complexity into simplicity prematurely. It holds complexity long enough for clarity to arise naturally. And this is the state you are being gently guided toward. Not confusion, not hesitation, but expanded awareness. There are shifts happening within you that are not always obvious from the outside. Old emotional responses may no longer feel as automatic as they once did. Certain reactions may now include a moment of observation before action. Certain thoughts may no longer carry the same authority they used to. And this is not a breakdown of certainty. It is a restructuring of perception. Because certainty built on habit eventually becomes fragile when awareness expands. And when awareness expands, certainty must evolve into something more flexible, something more responsive, something more aligned with truth rather than repetition. And truth is not always immediate. It unfolds. There is a deeper rhythm in your life that does not match the urgency of your thoughts. It moves more slowly, more precisely, more intentionally than the mind often recognizes. And when you align with that rhythm, life begins to feel less like something you are chasing and more like something you are participating in. But participation requires listening, not just hearing, listening. And listening requires that you do not fill every pause with interpretation, because interpretation too early can distort what is actually being communicated. There are moments in your life when something feels off, but you cannot explain why. And in those moments, your mind often tries to override that feeling with logic. It constructs reasons. It generates explanations. It tries to restore certainty as quickly as possible. But the feeling itself is not the problem. It is information. And when information is not allowed to complete itself, it often gets misread. This is why patience is not passive. It is active awareness. It is the willingness to remain present long enough for truth to fully reveal its structure. And that structure is often more complex than the first impression suggests. There are paths in life that appear correct because they are familiar. There are choices that feel safe because they are known. There are directions that feel convincing because they match past experience. But familiarity is not always alignment. Sometimes familiarity is simply repetition, and repetition does not always lead forward. Sometimes it circles, and the only way to recognize the difference is through awareness that is not rushed. There is a version of your life that is still forming beyond your current understanding, not in a distant future, but in the way your present perception is gradually changing. You are not the same observer you were even a short time ago. Your sensitivity to meaning, timing, and alignment is evolving. And as that sensitivity grows, your life begins to feel different, even when circumstances remain similar. What once felt acceptable may now feel questionable. What once felt certain may now feel open. What once felt stable may now feel ready to shift. And this does not mean everything must change immediately. It means your perception is no longer fixed in the same place. And perception is what determines experience more than circumstance. This is why two people can live through similar events and experience them in completely different ways. Because what shapes experience is not only what happens, but how it is perceived in real time. And your perception is becoming more refined, more aware of subtle signals, more capable of sensing alignment before confirmation, more sensitive to internal truth before external validation. And this refinement is not accidental. It is part of your development. Even the moments of confusion are contributing to it, because confusion forces you to slow down enough to notice what certainty was hiding. And in that slowing down, something essential becomes visible. You are not only reacting to life, you are interpreting it. And interpretation is where transformation begins. Because once interpretation changes, experience changes with it. There is something you are being prepared for, but preparation is not about prediction. It is about capacity. the capacity to see more without being overwhelmed, the capacity to understand more without rushing to conclusions, the capacity to remain centered even when clarity is still forming. And that capacity is built through moments like this, moments where you are asked to pause, to observe, to remain open, not because something dangerous is approaching, but because something meaningful is becoming visible. And meaningful things require awareness that is steady enough to recognize them. So when you feel that subtle inner hesitation in your life, do not immediately treat it as confusion to be eliminated. Treat it as awareness still forming its full message. Because not everything that delays you is blocking you. Some things are aligning you. And alignment is rarely immediate. It unfolds, quietly, gradually, sometimes without your conscious recognition at first, but always with purpose. And as you begin to see your life in this way, something inside you softens. The urgency reduces. The pressure to decide instantly begins to loosen. And in its place, something more stable begins to emerge. A sense that you do not need to force clarity. You can allow it. And in allowing it, you are not losing time. You are gaining accuracy. And accuracy is what allows your decisions to remain aligned not just in the moment, but over time. And so the message you are receiving now is not a command. It is an invitation to halt, to notice, to remain present a little longer than your urgency prefers. Because what is becoming visible in your life is still unfolding. And if you rush it, you may only see the surface. But if you stay with it, you may begin to see something deeper. Something that changes not just what you choose, but how you understand choosing itself. And in that understanding, something fundamental shifts. You begin to trust not just decisions, but awareness. And when awareness becomes your guide, life no longer feels like something you must constantly decode under pressure. It becomes something you learn to read with patience. And in that patience, clarity arrives not as force, but as recognition. And once recognized, it does not leave you the same.